everyone, and welcome to Or Something. It is the podcast where we talk about the origins of things or something. I'm Kristen, and this is Carla.
Hi.
And we're here.
I love how we were
into
testing the mic. I was all comfortable. And as soon as we're on, my face is like an inch away from the microphone and I'm screaming. Like, it's like, calm down.
It's like Homer when he's looking for Lisa that time and just screams in the baby's face.
It's true. Well, I am so picky with the audio. So every single thing now, I'm just like paranoid. Like, okay, do I go closer? Do I do this? And I'm like, already, I'm like thinking of ordering those like foam sound kind of barrier things.
You just like, you get one of those styrofoam igloos and you're just sitting inside of it at all times.
But it makes it really echoey and like...
Yeah, it's terrible. And it's just squeaky every time you move. What's happening?
And I'm outside freezing. Carla, what is wrong with you? I don't know.
Yeah, why do you have to be outside?
But no, for real, like, just let me know if I'm too quiet suddenly, because I have to, like, I don't want this whole recording to drive me insane.
No, I think you're good. I think
Hi.
Yeah, hi. Oh, can I tell you something really exciting?
Yes.
Okay, so I was in our little podcast thing. This is a real behind-the-scenes moment for our listeners. In our podcast thing, we can see like where our listeners are from, and we talked about our one crazy one that was bouncing around doing all the IP addresses.
Yeah.
But I saw that we have somebody. 6% of our listeners are in Fiji, and I got so excited. I was like, yes! So whoever it is that's listening to us in Fiji,
hi! I don't know anything about your country.
But I want to go there because those beaches are great. No, I have this very romantic tale about it. I bet that there was like an old like iPod that washed up on shore. And it's like...
Are you insulting?
I know. Why do I think that they're all like
everything has to wash up on shore?
Yeah, that's how they get everything.
Marge, I found some IKEA furniture washed up.
But no Allen wrench. Don't. We're screwed.
But we've just alienated the Fijian by mentioning IKEA. I don't know what that is. Click. Come back.
I don't understand you.
You're our only listener.
We love you.
2 Canadian girls love you.
We can really relate to those Fijians, clearly.
Maybe I should stop luring the prisoners over.
Hey, however we get listeners,
Canadian
I'm good with
girls
it.
love you. And then they see us. It's like,
oh, no.
I'm catfishing people.
Do you think that you would ever send letters, like have a pen pal in prison? Like, do you think you'd ever be that type of person?
No, because I think, like, whoever would write would be... Because I think, like, because so many people do that. So many, especially women, like lonely women, they go and they have almost like this, I guess, maybe martyr kind of thing going on.
Right.
And, you know, so it would just feel... I'd feel like just one in a... out of like maybe dozens or like
you wouldn't feel important enough. That's the only issue with
that. No, it would be like such a scam. Like I'd be like, why am I doing this? It would give me nothing. I'd be like,
I just feel like they wouldn't have like, because I'm super fascinated by like true crime stuff and the criminal mind type idea of like what makes psychopaths, like how do they get there and what motivates them.
Well, if it was somebody like that,
but
I thought you meant just
them aren't though.
Yeah,
right?
That's true.
Even the ones that do these horrific things that are like true psychopaths, they can't actually articulate or really talk about what it is, like this
and
driving
I'd be disappointed.
force.
Oh, my biggest pet peeve with those true crime shows is when they're like, all the like detectives and everyone, they're like, oh, he's a genius, IQ of a blah, 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 and this and that. I'm like, I don't think they're all that smart. And the fact that we build them up and make them out to be these like, you know, so intelligent, like, you know, and I'm like, no, they're just these murderers who got lucky and like...
But I think it's also like they're just driven by one specific thing. Like for me, if I'm driven, like I can find a way to find pizza anywhere I go. You know, like if I'm driven for something...
I don't know if I like this analogy, but okay.
No, but if you really want something, you find a way to make it happen, right?
You're right.
And murder and like torturing people is what they really want. right?
And that's
they want
all
that
they think
pain
about.
and the suffering and whatever. That's all they think about. So every moment of their day, they're planning for it. It's the 10,000 hours thing.
Jinx.
I can't talk the whole rest of the episode. Worst podcast episode ever. Whoa, that was really egotistical of me. I really think I had a lot. Oh my gosh.
Oh my gosh. Okay.
So how are things going? How have things been since? Oh,
what was the interesting story again? I completely forgot.
The Fiji person. It was so cool seeing that. I was like, yeah.
That is cool.
Mm-hmm. Really cool.
So, how's it going?
What's the haps with you? Yeah.
We had our first snowstorm.
Ooh.
It hadn't snowed for, like, I usually expect snow in Alberta here by Halloween, October 31st, right? And we got away with 2 weeks with no snow.
Whoa.
And then it just all came, all came at once.
Oh,
I think like 25 centimeters or whatever. And then the problem, like, it's not even that cold. And it didn't feel like it was snowing relentlessly. It just kind of all appeared. And the biggest thing were the drifts and wind and snow drifts.
Gross.
There is nothing more hilarious because I walked out and the driveway was like knee deep in snow. I couldn't even move. Of course, my dog, she loves the snow. So I took Phoebe for a walk.
Dogs in snow is like the cutest thing ever.
It's the cutest. And Phoebe comes alive in the winter, so she's the opposite of most human beings. Like, whatever. But she just bounced through the snow. She was like bounding and dragging my body across the city streets. She was like, let's do this. And I'm like, please help me.
I want to go back home. Thank you very much.
Actually, she made me love winter, I have to say.
It is pretty infectious when dogs get like super excited. Like Farlow always loved the snow. Like he would go mental. It was like crack cocaine for him. He'd just start like, he'd get so hyper and just run around like an idiot. It was awesome.
Right? Yeah.
Hey, did you see how Zelda the puppy, did she love the snow?
Okay, first of all, Zelda is the cutest thing in the world.
I love
she gave me little puppy kisses and I'm dying. She's so cute. But she loves the snow. So,
oh my
good
gosh.
news. Yeah.
Did she just like disappear in a snowdrift completely because she's so teeny tiny?
I don't know if she did that yet, but she was sliding on her belly down the like little snow kind of bank.
Oh,
like a little like polar bear or penguin situation.
You need to send videos or put videos somewhere because I know, right? Videos, not just pictures.
I love that my whole Instagram is just now dedicated to my nephew's dog.
As it should be.
As it should be. Okay, how's it going for you? I know what you did, but you have to tell our one listener.
What did I do?
The show that you went to?
Oh my gosh.
What did
Clearly super. I'm like, what did I do? This sounds exciting. Tell me about my life because clearly I've checked out. Oh my gosh. So I went to see Eddie Izzard on Monday night and it was such a good show. It's the first time that I've been out like at any kind of event since COVID. So it's been almost 2 years.
Did they do the QR code for the vaccine?
Yeah, we did the vaccination passport thing.
Oh, nice.
You had to wear masks. Although when I was sitting there were a lot of people that would take their masks off when they were sitting down, which to me was a little bit weird, where I'm like, you're right in front of me. Like, you're right here. We're not distanced because you're in theater chairs, right? So
yeah. I can't imagine they were supposed to.
They weren't supposed to. It was mandatory to have masks inside. So that kind of bothered me a little bit.
Yeah.
But whatever. It was fine. So it was so good. And except I had these this young couple sitting right next to me who clearly they were like on a first or second date or something. And it was so awkward where she was kind of cute. Like she was like nervous, but like trying to like kind of like ask cute questions or whatever. She's like, what would you rather be, a cat or a dog? Like just like cute stuff like that. Yeah. And you could tell he was really nervous and anxious about saying the right thing. So he was like, oh, I don't know. Like he kept kind of shutting down the thing. And I was like, oh no. And then he asked her like what her goals are in life. And I'm like, what is this? A job interview?
No.
It was really painful to listen to. And the show started late. So I was just sitting there and I was texting you the entire time like, oh my God, this is brutal. It's so painful to listen to that initial, like, nervousness. I mean, it's inevitable to some degree, but...
wouldn't it be great if
painful.
You could do first dates and there'd be, like, a panel that you could go and, like, talk to afterwards of, like, how did I do? And then they'd be like, well, this and that. Right? Because then dating would just be so much better.
Yeah. Or just, like, make someone else go on the date for you. And you could, like,
I'm just going to hire a panel of 3 people to follow me around everywhere.
Oh, my God. I would love to be on that panel. I could provide that service for people.
You're already on that panel.
I'm so good at giving advice to people. I'm not great at taking advice from people, but I sure can dish it. Oh my gosh. But the show was so good. It was definitely comparable to Dress to Kill. So, like, anybody who doesn't know Eddie Izzard,
it sounded like the material, like, it kind of was a little bit familiar. So,
it's the show. So, Wonder Bar is the show, and I guess she was touring it in the U.S. before COVID hit. Okay. So it's been around for a while. Like, she's been doing it for now a couple of years. So, which I was surprised. I was like, oh, it's not brand new stuff, but so I'm sure that it's been, like, out on certain like formats
or something.
Yeah, one way or another. Yeah. But, oh, man, it was awesome. It was so good. And I cannot wait until it's, like, out so I can buy it and make everybody watch it. Yeah, it was really good.
Awesome.
And I did volunteering on Tuesday, which was fantastic. It was sunny. We've had crazy rains in BC. We're in a state of emergency right now because there's insane flooding. It's actually pretty scary and devastating.
Yeah. And all the major roads are, like,
all the major highways out of Vancouver are completely cut off, basically.
Yeah. People are joking that Vancouver did what Alberta and Quebec could never do, separate from the rest of Canada.
Oh my God. That's awesome.
I don't know who made that joke, but
that's really good. Oh my gosh. I love it. I think one of my favorite things is, like, joking about inappropriate things. It's like my joy in life. You feel, like, so wrong about it, but it also feels so right. It's great. It's, like, such a good joke. Oh, it's so good. But yeah, it was good that we were able to actually go because the farm is quite far away. So I didn't know if I'd actually be able to make it there because they were shutting the highways down to prevent people from getting too close to where the flooding is.
Right,
And where it is very close to Abbotsford, which basically is, like, the farms there are completely underwater. It's actually really sad because all the farm animals, like, a lot of them have drowned, or even if they've been saved, they don't have any food, so they're trying to get vets out and get food out to them and that kind of thing. So it's, like, it's a pretty sad situation. Yeah. But it's good. I spent some time with the animals on Tuesday, and they were super cute. Pickles the pig was, like, so mad at me because I went in to clean his house and he was sleeping, and I was like, get outside, it's sunshiny outside, like, you're missing the best part of the day. I basically was like an annoying mom to this little teenager pig, and he grumbled, but he did it.
Oh,
so it was cute.
Grumbling pig. I can't. It's kind of like Phoebe. She makes pig noises when she sniffs.
She does too, right?
And she grumbles a lot when I try to, like, bug her. Okay, well, so cute. Stay safe over there, Vancouver people.
Yeah, it's scary. It's raining again today, which sucks. But tomorrow it's not supposed to. So hopefully people are able to get everything figured out. There's lots of stranded people that were on the highways, and I think they're working on getting them safe to places and stuff. So hopefully it'll clear up soon, and the devastation won't be lasting for too long.
Yeah.
But wow, that was a real Debbie Downer. That sure took a turn. This got awkward. Oh my gosh. Okay, whose turn is it?
Yours.
My turn. Yeah. Oh my gosh. Okay, I was, like, pretty excited about this one. And then, like, I did a ton of research for it, but it's actually pretty short. So
that happened to me
which
too.
Is weird. Really? It's going to be
Yeah.
like the shortest episode. Good thing we talked about a bunch of crap in the
No,
beginning.
I'm highly unprepared, so don't worry.
Okay,
Mine
cool.
will take 7 hours.
As per usual. Okay. So this is something that I've actually really wanted to know about for a long time, because a few years ago, I discovered that this thing that I thought was around for forever was actually pretty new, a pretty new concept, which kind of freaked me out a little bit. And when in my travels, especially in South Africa, I was like, I always, because I'm paranoid about safety and stuff, I was like, what is this thing? If I need help, who do I call? And so and there was no solid answer for which number to call.
What?
So I'm doing the origin of emergency phone numbers.
I love this. I just watched that IT Crowd episode where they changed the 999 number to like 0118999, like really long emergency services number.
Seriously, it was one of the first things I thought about, and I actually like found it. I was like, I need to listen to it because I couldn't remember what the song was. Oh my gosh. Okay, so for anybody who has never watched the IT Crowd, it is a British comedy show. It is hilarious.
Yes.
It's a little bit weird in some episodes, but like stick with it.
It might be one of the best shows of all time.
Honestly, it is awesome. And they have an episode where the British government changed the emergency number from 999 to this really, really long phone number. And they did this whole ad campaign around it too. And the way they were like, here's how to remember the number. And they did it to like a song. And then of course the characters like something sets on fire and they have to call for emergency help.
Try to call, yeah.
And it was just a disaster. It was so funny.
Didn't work, yeah. I love this topic.
Oh my gosh. Yeah. And so when I was in South Africa with Greg, I was asking him like, okay, so is it 911 here? Because I saw something along the side of the road that said 112, which is the emergency number in most of Europe, is 112. Okay. Mm-hmm.
Here it's just like an information number or something.
Exactly. Yeah.
I would never.
411. Okay. No. So I kind of asked him there because I saw something along the side of the road and I was like, oh yeah, I guess maybe they have a different emergency number here. So if something happens, because it can be quite dangerous there, I said to him, I'm like, who should I call? Like, what number do I use?
Yeah.
And he's like, I don't actually know. Like they've changed them around a little bit. Yeah. So I ended up looking it up at the end of all of my research because I'm like, I need to actually find out what it is. So before I get into anything else, I'll just do so South Africa has 3 emergency numbers.
Okay.
For a nationwide emergency response, it's 10111.
10, okay.
And you call that for any emergency that requires police response, and it can be dialed from anywhere in South Africa.
Okay.
Okay.
So it's basically, okay.
Yeah. And the calls made from a landline to that number are free, but if you make that call from a cell phone, you're charged the normal cell phone rates. And their cell phone rates are quite high, so people don't usually use them.
Oh,
now,
okay.
If you have an emergency and you've got a cell phone, you can call 112 from your cell phone for a cell phone emergency.
Okay.
And it'll transfer you through. Yeah, I know. But that's how they write it everywhere. It's a cell phone emergency. Yeah, I know.
Oh.
It's crazy.
Okay.
And so when this number is dialed, it's followed by an automated menu. But remain calm because the menu exists as a form of triage, priority of treatment control, and filters out abuse of the medical and emergency system. Isn't that crazy? So a call to 112 on a cell phone is free and is even possible on a cell phone that does not have airtime.
Okay.
So that's a bit more like our 911 that we have,
right.
Except we don't have an automated menu that you have to go through.
No.
And then the third number is for ambulance response, and it's 10177.
Okay.
The
I guess in that case,
case,
it would keep people off of the 911 thing, though.
I guess, but it's
the emergency.
It seems pretty confusing of who do you call?
Right.
They say the 10177 number can be used in the case of a medical emergency and can be called in conjunction with both the fire and police department, respectively, depending on whether or not there are casualties. I don't even understand what that means.
Wow.
So it's very convoluted, which is why I kind of get
in South Africa know, though, who they would call.
Well, a lot of people say, like, put those in as, like, speed dials in your, like, cell phone or whatever. Maybe they would know. I don't know. They don't really. A lot of them don't trust the police entirely. So
yeah, that makes sense.
So I don't know if they do call them.
You call the one number, and they decide, like, okay, can we send a fire crew over? Because fire crews, they often have, like, you know, medical, you know, like the
yeah, like they dispatch it to all of them, like it's a centralized service.
Yeah, and so whoever can do it goes. So it's kind of like
but that's not how it started. Let me tell you.
Oh, yeah. Okay. Yeah.
Okay.
I forgot what we were doing here completely. I'm like, let's chat. No, we're not chatting.
Okay. So my sources for this are indiatimes.com, Wikipedia, Walden University resource article called 10 Things You Might Not Know About the U.S. 911 Emergency Telephone Number. Very long title there. Popularmechanics.com and the CBC Digital Archives.
Nice.
Okay, so back in the day of pre-dial or manual, quote-unquote, manual phones, when an emergency happened, the person would simply pick up a telephone receiver and wait for the operator to answer, because that's how they made any phone call. There was no dialing. They just picked it up, and there was an operator there, and they said who they wanted to talk to. So in that case, they'd be like, oh my gosh, this thing happened. We need a doctor or whatever.
Right.
So they would tell the operator what they needed, and the operator would contact the proper authorities, like, on their behalf. Quite often, the operator would also be responsible for activating a town's fire alarm if they were in a small area. So in the small towns, the operators, like, actually became quite a hub for all kinds of things. Like, they, even for, like, veterinary emergency, like, any of those things, they would call, like, they would contact the people kind of on their behalf of, like, oh, so-and-so needs, like, a vet out to their farm right away, get out there, stat, kind of thing. So they took on a lot of the emergency type responsibilities. When the manual switching systems began to be replaced by automatic or dial systems, the very personalized emergency service that had been provided by operators was lost because they no longer called through to an operator anymore. They had to dial the number directly. So callers now either had to dial the operator, so they had to, like, do a number to dial the operator, or they had to look up the telephone number of who they wanted to reach. For example, in Auckland, New Zealand, at the time, the city had 40 exchanges, all with different emergency numbers, and finding the number for the local exchange would require having to search through the city's 500-page telephone directory. So a lot of people died. So this problem wasn't quite as bad in the US, Canada, and the UK because they were able to dial 0 and get a local assistance operator, which was a thing. I didn't realize that that's not a thing in a lot of other places. It's only specifically in certain places because we always could dial 0 and you get an operator.
Yeah.
But that's not going to be very fast service because if you're getting an operator, like, they're dealing with all kinds of things or all kinds of people or whatever. So you're going to get faster service, like in an emergency, if you were able to dial the police or the fire department directly.
Right.
So the first ever emergency call telephone service began on June 30th in 1937 in London, England.
Oh.
So, of course, the British, they just started it again. Damn it.
Troublemakers.
Yeah. You innovative bastards.
Yeah. We don't try for shenanigans.
The number used was 999, and it is still used today. They also do use 112 in Britain as well, but it ties in with the 999 number. So you can call either number there, but 999 is the typical one. And in most of Europe, it's 112.
I didn't know that.
at the beginning, when 999 was dialed, a buzzer sounded and a red light flashed in the exchange in order to attract an operator's attention. That it was an emergency call coming through, so they needed to drop everything and take that call and do whatever they needed to do, like dispatch that call. So the system was introduced after a fire in a house in 1935 killed 5 women.
Oh, no.
A neighbor had tried to call the fire brigade and was outraged when he had to wait on the line with a telephone exchange. And the reason why all these women, they didn't necessarily have to die because he was trying to notify people, like the proper authorities.
Fire brigade. Yeah,
to get out there. But like he couldn't get through. So this neighbor wrote a letter to the editor of the Times. And he was so upset about this. Yeah. And it prompted a government inquiry. So the initial setup of the emergency number covered a 12-mile radius around Oxford Circus. And the public were advised to only use it in an ongoing emergency if, quote, for instance, the man in the flat next to yours is murdering his wife, or you have seen a heavily masked cat burglar peering around the stack pipe of the local bank.
It's Barbie, the cat burglar.
Yeah. So the first arrest, and it was for burglary, took place a week later. The first arrest using this new emergency system took place a week later.
A whole week, though. That seems kind of surprising.
But still, I mean, for a whole new system that's happening, right? And it's only in a 12-mile radius. For it to actually be effective and for them to actually... It was probably just a setup.
That's exciting.
By the guy who, I'm going to go rob this bank now. Okay, everybody call. It's middle of the day. That's not true. I didn't look any of that up. It's just speculation on my part. Conspiracy theorist over here.
I love how jaded you are, and I'm just like, oh, it worked.
Yeah. Oh, Barbie got caught. So the number was extended to major cities after World War II. So it took a bit of time because basically right after, in the initial couple of years, then World War II started. So it kind of got stopped there. But then it, soon after World War II, it just exploded and was extended to a bunch of major cities and then to the whole of the UK in 1976. So it took
1976?
Yeah, it took a long time for it to really spread to every single place. But you'll see that that's not uncommon with all of the emergency numbers out there.
Okay. What is this? I made a note. I was going to save this, but I need to say this. People, when they go on and on about humanity and all these great achievements and how we're the greatest species ever, right? The fact that almost, I bet you probably 99.9% of the time, we come up with solutions to things. That's the problem. We can only think of these innovations when something horrible happens or when we need a solution already. Mm-hmm. I'd love to know if people just innovate for the sake of
no, it's
from their imagination.
That's all invention is problem solving,
infuriating.
Right? Yeah.
These 5 women die. And then in 1976, we decide, you know what? Sure.
It's a good idea. Let's just keep it. It's fine. Rant. Oh, just wait until you see about how long it takes everybody in the States to do everything.
Oh my gosh.
Okay, this is a pretty cool fun fact. The first city in North America to use a central emergency number was Winnipeg, Manitoba. Isn't that crazy? And they implemented 999 as their emergency number in 1959. Is that, I think it's
Winnipeg,
nuts.
Kudos. I wanted to visit that place for a while. That place?
I'm not Canadian. No,
but it's actually really pretty in a lot of pictures.
I've heard it's really pretty, yeah.
Beautiful lakes and everything.
Just don't go in winter.
So trick-or-treating.
Yeah.
Canadians.
I know. This is crazy. It was nuts when I was like, no. At first, I thought, I saw it on a Canadian website. And I was like, oh, they're just highlighting that in Winnipeg they had something. So I was like, nah, I just kind of discounted it because it's whatever. It's not actually that relevant. But then I saw it in a whole bunch of other spots saying the first city in North America to have any kind of emergency number was Winnipeg. And I was like, hey, Canada. And it totally got me thinking of like, why don't I... Like, Canadians are so not proud people at all. Like, we've done a lot. We have done a lot throughout history, but we don't know any of it.
No.
And, like, yeah.
And we certainly won't sing our own praises.
No. It's crazy.
But we should,
almost every single episode that I've
Winnipeg,
had.
not Toronto, the central, like, hub of Canada, but, like...
Exactly. Okay, so the Winnipeg mayor, Stephen Juba... or I don't know how you pronounce that, Yuba or something, was the driving force behind getting this emergency number. They hired 8 emergency telephone operators. All of them were women. And this is not a great one. This is a bit of a Debbie Downer because the system's budget was too small to employ men. So the women were paid $200 a month and men would have been paid $345 a month for the same work.
At least it wasn't children.
Yeah, hey, good point. Fair enough. For free. I mean, if they really wanted to be smart. A bunch of 10-year-olds just devastated by life. What just happened?
They're just putting the wrong connections in.
Just a 5-year-old?
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. Okay, so they changed their number to 911 in 1972 to keep in line with the rest of the country. Canada adopted 911 in 1972, with London, Ontario being the first city to implement it in 1974.
Wow.
Prince Edward Island was the last province to get 911 service, and they got it in the year 2000.
What?
Isn't that insane?
Oh my gosh, how small are they? They really probably didn't need it.
They probably didn't need it because it's such a small province, right?
Yeah.
But still... You would think, like, I don't know. It's crazy.
Even for tourists. Right?
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, like, what would you do?
What would you do? Yeah.
In 1958, New Zealand implemented their emergency number, which is 111. And in 1961, Australia implemented 000 as their emergency number. So those are some of, like, the early adopters of emergency numbers.
See, now that would make me nervous, 000, because I would be like, my finger would do the thing of, like, the extra jitter, so I'd accidentally dial, like, 0000.
Oh, yeah.
And then I'd have to redial, and then I'd panic.
Yeah. Well, and people were saying, like, why did they pick 999 in Britain as the first thing? And so with rotary phones, it's the last number, right? So because they're like, you have to go all the way around. But they said it's really easy to find. Like, so if you're in the dark in an emergency or something, it's easy to find and put your finger in there. And then they kept it as the same number so you could keep your finger in there and do it 3 times. And they said another reason why the 9, it had to do with something of connecting the exchange. Because if it was like a 111, for example, on the rotary phones, it had too quick of a, like, it might not stick with the connections or something.
Right.
It went down some really technical thing.
I'm
and
so disappointed in myself because I was, like, earlier... I was going to ask you, why that's those specific numbers. And I would just be like, no, don't focus on that. I'm like, no, yes, ask those questions. That's what this whole podcast is about. Like, and you have the answer, and I'm so excited. Yeah. And I'm so stupid for forgetting rotary phones.
I know, because that's how it all began. And so for those youngins out there, the rotary phone is where it was a circle, and you had to go all the way around with the numbers, and it had little holes you could stick your finger in and go around. We had a rotary phone when I was a kid.
Yeah, me too. Yeah.
Oh boy, we're old. Okay.
Listen.
So in the U.S., the National Fire Chiefs Association suggested establishing a national universal emergency number in 1957. And I mean, they specifically wanted it for fire reports, but they wanted it just for everything, to mobilize everything, basically to make their lives easier, because they could see a need for it, right?
Right.
Because they're the fire chiefs and they're working from that perspective, so they understand, like, if we could get there faster.
Right. But I didn't even think that the police didn't innovate, like, didn't make a call.
No, in the States it was the fire chiefs. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. And at the time, like in 1957, there were hundreds of different 7-digit emergency numbers being used across the country. In some states, like Nebraska, for example, they had more than 180 different ambulance service numbers alone. So people had no idea. Like, you really had to know what number to call.
180? Mm-hmm. In Nebraska?
Yeah.
One state?
Yeah. And that's just for ambulance service. Like,
what?
So if you had an emergency where you're already panicked and you're like, you know, you're obviously shaken, you don't know what to do, and you're fumbling to figure out what the emergency number is, which emergency place you should be calling first of all.
And if you're in a guest place or out somewhere in the world, like, who on earth?
Exactly. Yeah.
Oh, that's so scary.
Yeah. So then some people pointed to, in 1964, the murder of Kitty Genovese, or Genovese, in New York. So she, if people don't know that story, she was attacked and killed in New York City, like basically going to her apartment building. And multiple people heard what was happening on the street. They could hear her screaming and crying for help and stuff like that. But nobody called the police. Like, nobody could see it happening because it was hidden in like the doorway of her apartment building. Yeah. But a lot of people were ear witnesses basically, but not a single person called the police. So some think that nobody called the police because it was so complex to do that. And you actually, like, when you called the police, you'd have to be put through to the actual sergeant person or whatever. It was an elaborate thing. It wasn't just a quick, like, hey, I'm calling to report this, send somebody out here, hang up the phone. Like, you actually had to follow through with it. But I think it's much more likely that it was the bystander effect. Everybody thought somebody else was doing something about it.
I think Netflix or somewhere there was a good documentary just about that.
And that case is usually the one used to explain and describe the bystander effect, where if there's multiple people watching something happen, nobody takes action because they all think somebody else is doing it. But you know what, honestly,
though, not having access to like a number, that would actually have a huge effect on people too, because
think of all the people now that are very quick to call. Stuff like I lived near downtown where you'd hear stuff that I could potentially be a gunshot. I don't know. Like, but I was like, no, I always kind of downplayed it. I'm not the type. I'm not very quick to like reach out and make those calls. Yeah. But there were people in my building that would be like, oh yeah, I called the cops on that one. I called the cops on that one kind of thing. But I think because it was easy for them to do it, you just call and you just report it. You're not implicated in it. You don't have to sit and do interviews and, talk to all the people and all that kind of stuff. Yeah. You're just reporting it, right? Yeah. And I think if it was a bit harder, maybe they wouldn't be quite as quick to do the responsible thing. Right. I don't know. Who knows?
Wow. Yeah, who knows?
I mean, I think it definitely affected it, yeah. So the first 911 call in the U.S. was made on February 16th in 1968. In Alabama. So despite the fact that the fire chiefs in 1957 started kind of campaigning for this number, it took 11 years for it to actually happen. Yeah. So AT&T, in consultation with the Federal Communications Commission, chose the number 911 and integrated it with the company's existing systems. They picked 911 because it was short, easy to dial, and the number 9 wasn't being used as an extension yet. So 911 was not, it was unavailable, it wasn't an area code, there was nothing happening with that.
Do you think that just to backtrack, do you think that delayed like the 11 years would have anything to do with like operators losing jobs or anything like? They wouldn't, though.
I don't know. I don't think so.
Because it's still
no, because they would have to hire people that were specifically the emergency people, right?
Right.
Yeah. I don't know. No, I couldn't really find anything in there to say what the delay was. I think it was just more of a like, okay, well, somebody has to step up and actually organize it and actually do it. And, you know, like there was a lot of government red tape with the whole 911 system and getting it expanded and set up and everything. Like it was massive.
It's amazing.
Yeah. So also the reason behind picking the number 911. Also, AT&T had already developed numbers like 411, so they were able to use the same infrastructure to process and route the 911 calls.
Okay.
So a lot of it was like kind of behind the scenes, like how they are able to, like, with just these 3 numbers, get the calls where they need to go and all that. They had to figure out the infrastructure of the technology behind all of it, right?
Yeah, that makes sense now, why there would be a delay, I think.
Yeah.
Because even now, with, like, changing internet things or whatever, it's like, you know, you should have seen the huge upheaval in the neighborhoods just for getting, what's that stuff called? Fiber optic type stuff.
Oh, absolutely.
Lawns were torn up, everything, street, like, corners, everything blocked, and I'm like, I kind of get it.
Yeah. And that's the thing, like, if you think about the States, it's a huge country. There's tons of communities, lots of rural communities, lots of small towns, lots of big cities. Like, there's a huge area to cover that goes across many jurisdictions, many different, like, phone companies. Like AT&T, they did it through their existing systems, but not every place. Like, a lot of rural areas were not covered by AT&T. Like, they weren't in those areas, so it would take time to implement it across the whole, like, all of the areas, right?
Wow.
Yeah. So, due to everyone not being on the AT&T system and a lag in a lot of bureaucratic issues, 911 was very slow to spread and catch on in the U.S. So it also had to be kind of adopted by Congress and, like, all these kinds of things saying, yes, this is our national, like, our nationwide emergency number. So that took a really long time for all of that to happen.
Wow.
It was helped along, however, by the Robert Wood Johnson Foundation. So Robert Wood Johnson II, I think, or Jr. or something, I don't know. He was the son of the founder of Johnson & Johnson. So he's, like, part of this big thing. So he died, and a foundation was set up in his name. It was started in 1972, and the foundation decided to give a $15 million grant to focus on improving emergency services in poorly served rural areas.
Oh, okay.
Because as recently as 1989, only 50% of Americans could dial 911. And now isn't that insane?
Wow.
Yeah. And now that number is up to 99%.
Oh.
Which is good. But it was like, it took a long time for all of that to build and to grow and for it to become this thing.
See, I'm so shocked because I'm in the city and I can't imagine not having access to those emergency services, right?
Yeah.
But in a lot of rural places, they all fend for themselves and take care of themselves and, like, each other, take care of each other. Mm-hmm. And, you know, they would just call whoever down the street or blah, blah, blah. Like, they've been dealing with medical emergencies and crimes and fires for so long on their own. Mm-hmm. So I guess I shouldn't be too scandalized here.
I know, but just generally, though, like, the idea, because we grew up with knowing that 911 was a thing.
Yeah.
Like, you're taught as children, it's usually the first phone number that children are taught is the emergency number.
Yeah.
Because if anything happens, whatever happens, you dial that number.
But if you're in, like, a rural situation, it's going to be totally different for little Tommy. It's going to be like, if anything happens, you run down to Farmer Joe's house.
Yeah, but even so, like, yeah, fair enough.
Because who's going to get down there, you know?
Right.
Crazy.
Yeah. It's crazy. Wow. So just to finish it off, another interesting fact is that the U.S. Congress finally designated 911 as the official emergency number in 1999.
Oh. What?
And that's it. That's all she wrote.
Oh my gosh.
Isn't that crazy? It just blew my mind.
Me too.
Like, it's something I thought was just natural that we've had it for so long, and it's something we depend on so much. But to even go to a place where even calling, like, people were saying, like, you know, even in some places you call 911 and there aren't enough operators, or for a while they didn't know how to route it through to the other jurisdictions. So if one operator was overwhelmed and not able to take all the calls, they didn't have a system in place to route it to other jurisdictions. So as we've gone, and as technology has gotten better and all that kind of stuff, they've developed different systems where they can the call volumes can go through to different centers and different hubs. But that's taken a really, really long time to develop. It's crazy. Well, and now with cell phones and stuff, they've got new new technology so that they can track like your location and those kinds of things, which they didn't have for a long time.
You can even dial technically or get emergency service like number even if your phone is like dead or something like that. Like it's really just cool technology.
Yeah, like if you have no cell phone plan or no minutes or no whatever.
No service even or
service,
something.
I think you can still dial. Yeah.
Yeah, it's like...
They had actually, which was really interesting, there was a new like pilot program somewhere in the States to allow you to text 911 and that they would be able to access your text messages and videos and pictures and stuff like that to help them figure out like where you might be or what's going on. Because you know how they now have, I know I had it on my cell phone where like if you like hit a button a few times, it'll start recording video and it'll send a message to a few people, like to your contacts saying, I'm in trouble, call the police type thing.
Yeah.
So that you don't actually have to call.
Oh, that is so
but they could access that on your phone potentially.
Sorry, I didn't mean no battery. I feel like it was no service. That makes more sense.
Yeah, I think it's no service. I don't. Yeah.
Sorry.
Yeah, I think it's no service. But I have heard, I think there's some urban myths out there about with no battery, because I think that was floating around for a while, or a low battery, even if your phone's dead. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, and it was like that interesting, that went viral. I don't know if it was true or not. I think it was true, but like a woman who was in trouble, like with an abusive partner or something, and she called 911, but she was pretending to order pizza or something. Yeah. And so that would be nice for people to be able to just like hit a button or like send off a text or something,
send a text
without having
whatever.
to like.
I think sending a text would be great, because then people can't hear you. So if you are in a situation where your abuser is right there, you could maybe hide your phone and actually send a text and not have to say anything and not have to be cryptic or whatever. Like, and just say, help me, I'm here, like whatever.
I like that now. I'm singing humanity's praises with like, oh yeah, we're amazing. Look at all this technology we're coming up with. It's like...
I mean, it's pretty incredible to think like what we are able to do with technology. Like, how does any of that even work, right? Like, it's pretty incredible. I mean, we're just saving ourselves from ourselves, so whatever. We're solving a problem we created, but that's okay. I guess at least we're solving it. It's better than nothing.
That's true.
All right, what's yours this week? Ooh.
Okay. You guys, whoever's listening, Fiji person and jail Fred, I don't want to do it this week because I did a bunch of good research and I started sorting it all like nicely. Yeah. But it stopped there. And I was getting ready for like an hour today, getting everything set up, and then I'm like, as you were talking and presenting, it hit me. I'm like, I'm not prepared. So this will be a disaster, everybody.
Excellent.
But it wouldn't be me if it wasn't a disaster.
Oh,
I like that I set it up so much. That's my worst trait. I'll be like, oh, I'm so nervous. So everyone knows I'm nervous. Or, oh, I'm not prepared.
Yeah,
everyone
you gotta like fake it till you make it, man.
No, I refuse. You all need to know I'm a lazy son of a beep. All right. We're going to talk about something that is in the original origin story.
Oh.
So, yeah, we're going like way back.
Okay.
Way back.
Okay.
This is a 2-for-1 situation, too.
Excellent.
I could have separated it.
I love a good deal.
I should have separated them, but I didn't want to.
It's hard. I found that with most of the topics I've done. I'm like, ooh, that was dependent on this being created. Like, what was the origin of this? Like, it was insane. Yeah.
This is the first time, though, I have to say, where the history is so clear and linear and beautiful.
Nice.
I love it so much.
When does that ever happen?
All right, so think back to the creation story. You have Adam and Eve, right? What are they supposedly eating? Or what did Eve supposedly eat? An apple.
Yeah.
We're talking apples today.
Whoa, what?
Mm-hmm.
Like the origin of apples?
Yeah.
How's that possible? They just exist, don't they?
Yes, they just appeared magically. No, this is kind of like it's not like one specific origin thing of like the apple. Like it's kind of the journey of the apple.
Okay, cool.
So the reason I start with the Bible is because apple is like synonymous with Adam and Eve at this point in art and movies and everything, right? But I just wanted to clarify. This was a sub thing in my research about apples.
Okay.
And I thought, why not? Let's talk about it. A little kind of subtopic. So just to get us all warmed up thinking about apples.
Apples.
And the reason I thought of this topic is because I made a bunch of applesauce.
Oh, I have a whole bag of apples that every single day I'm like, make some damn applesauce with that.
Right.
And I haven't yet. I need to do it today. It's rainy.
Yes.
It's a perfect day for it.
And you'll want to do it now.
Yeah.
Or you won't? Question mark. Okay. So the apple, it was not specifically mentioned in the Bible. It's just known as the fruit.
Well, how did it become an apple then?
Right?
Oh my gosh.
So the actual word apple can be attributed to a Latin pun of sorts. In the 4th century, a scholar named Jerome or Jeremy, I'm not sure how they would pronounce it.
Named Banana.
Was tasked with translating the Hebrew Bible into Latin. He used common Latin, like commoner Latin.
Okay.
I didn't know there was fancy Latin and commoner Latin. But
Yeah.
where the word malus, or malus, I should say, M-A-L-U-S, meant both evil and apple. The problem is that that word, malus, can also be used to describe any fleshy seed-bearing fruit. So it was actually an incredibly generic word.
Why was it the same word for evil and for a fleshy seed-bearing fruit?
Didn't go down that road. But
that's a whole other rabbit hole to go down.
Yeah. And in the Hebrew Bible that he was translating, another generic term was used. So in the Hebrew Bible, apple wasn't used either. It was the word peri, P-E-R-I. And people still don't really know what they meant. So people speculate it could have been fig, a pomegranate. And you'll see pomegranates and figs and even citrus and grapes in art, like old paintings and stuff of the Garden of Eden and the creation story, right? So
because in that area, that's the stuff that would grow quite often,
exactly.
right? I don't think apples are common there. Maybe they are. I don't know.
They were in. Yeah, I have to double check. I mean, they were in some of the ancient areas, obviously, like Middle East and China and that kind of thing. But yeah, but generally that's what people are. And some people think it could have even been wheat or wine, because there's some suggestion that there was that Eve was intoxicated or became intoxicated, which could explain the evil apple, kind of. I'm just speculating there, but
how did she get alcohol? What, do they have casks there? They don't have clothes, but they've got a whole system to make wine from it. Nice one. God, you really set them up for that one. Here, guys, you can't have anything else but get
beer
wasted.
Speculation. We'll ask God.
She's got
when
a
we
martini
get a chance
glass
to talk to him. So, in 1504, an apple in the Garden of Eden, it was a little bit in art before this, before 1504, but Albrecht Dürer, don't know how to say his name, made a famous engraving depicting Adam and Eve by an apple tree. So people just ran with it from that point on because it was such a famous engraving.
So it was just he made a choice that it's an apple and it just went with it.
And then culturally, unless it was already culturally in the thing. But
side note, he was a super hot artist guy, right?
Oh my God, yeah.
Yeah, he did that self-portrait.
He's actually one of my favorite artists. But, not because
I don't know anything he did except for that, self-portrait. And I was like, you are a gorgeous man.
The hair is, my all-time favorite. The rabbit kind of.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, I love that.
That was pretty good, yeah. I agree.
Then a writer named John Milton, he penned some kind of 10,000 word poem or something called Paradise Lost. And he also used the word apple. Although at the time, Milton might have even known that might have even been using apple as in the generic sense too.
Oh, okay.
And the reason there was this kind of double-sided, maybe this answers the evil apple thing. He may have been referring to the darker side of the apple, as most apples were made into hard cider at the time.
Oh.
So I'm not sure how far this cider thing goes, so that's something I also didn't go down, but...
Okay.
Right?
Interesting. Yeah.
So that's just a little thing of, kind of culturally. historically.
Oh my gosh,
how
that is
fixated
so
on
cool.
apples and everything. Yeah.
Because now it's just commonplace that it's the apple.
Yeah.
Wow,
yeah. And there's a lot
cool.
of like good articles out there about it. But again, I don't want to go too deep into that because I wanted to talk about apples. So, a long time ago, I saw this amazing documentary and read a book called Botany of Desire by, I think it's Michael Pollan. And one of the segments was all about the apple. And I became obsessed with the fact that the apple can be traced to a specific point of origin. Like, you know.
What?
So, that
blows my mind.
That we, I guess, know now, like a common type of domesticated apple, is Malus domestica. But the ancestor of that, I'm butchering these words, but it's like Malus sieversi.
Okay.
Sieversi. Oh, it's impossible to say, and I'm so mad. But anyway, this Malus sieversi one is found in Kazakhstan. So if anyone's as dumb about geography as I am, Kazakhstan it borders Russia in the north, China in the east, and like 3 impossible names like Kyrgyzstan or whatever.
Okay.
I think Turkmenistan, something. 3 other ones on the bottom in the south.
Okay.
So Kazakhstan is like Central Asia.
Okay.
And this Malus, I'm just going to call it Malus S because the name is insane.
Okay.
It was found there, and people say that that's where it basically originated. Like just the apple. That's where the oldest known apple is.
Whoa.
Genetically and everything. I don't know where my genetic information went. It flew out the window here. So
that is crazy to me that they can actually trace back the origins of
the apple's genetic home, they say. It's Kazakhstan.
Wow, that's
in the
so
high
cool.
forest. So if you go there now, you will find just a ton of varieties of apples, and apples they come in all different sizes and shapes and that kind of thing.
Yeah.
Right?
Whoa.
But I'm going to be kind of tracing. Okay, so this is like where it got really interesting, because they say unusually for the apple, the original apple, this Malus S, I think that's the one, is actually very similar in size and look and sweetness as the apples that we like to eat now. Not the cider apples, but like, so that's unusual because a lot of wild fruit and stuff was generally pretty small.
Yeah.
Right? And bitter.
I would
and sour
think,
and
it started with like little crab apples or something like that.
Right.
And then ended up being like genetically like changing
and crab
into what we have
their
now.
own thing altogether.
Wow.
I'll get to that. So, yeah. So I kind of want to just quickly talk about the evolution of the apple then.
Yeah.
Right? Because people are like, what are these giant apples doing here? Like, how is this even happening? Right? So the big thing about Botany of Desire, the book and the documentary, and then a lot of other people's work, is that they talk about sweetness. How sweetness was basically the whole reason the apple spread across the world and was
who wouldn't want to eat that and poop it out and then have an apple tree grow from it?
There, my topic is done. You've said everything I needed to say. So basically the consensus is that apples originally evolved in the wild to entice ancient megafauna to disperse their seeds.
Wow.
So fruits are basically adapted. So you have like a fleshy, sweet outside surrounding seeds. Mm-hmm. So fruits are adapted for like seed dispersal specifically, right?
Right.
So with small apples, small fruit, birds would easily digest the seeds and spread them, right?
Okay, yeah.
But these other bigger fruit, how are they going to be spread around, right?
Yeah.
So in order for the apples to move and spread and travel, basically, they basically had to start kind of like evolving to lure bigger animals, right?
Yeah.
So wild deer, giant, this is like end of the ice age situation we're talking about. Like these apples have been around for like millions of years. Whoa. And so, yeah, these like large, animals would eat them, like wild horses and that kind of thing. They would take the...
They
now
love
bears,
apples.
they love apples. But these animals, they prefer the bigger, sweeter fruit, right?
Yeah.
So the bigger, sweeter fruit, the seeds from these are the ones that would spread, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, so it's this cool
Whoa.
thing. Someone said, like, there are very few sweet things in the wild. So mostly ripe fruit and honey. And the reason sugar is so desirable for humans and animals alike is because it's so high in calories, right? So it was this high caloric, wonderful thing. And so obviously the bigger species, right, that needed more energy, that kind of thing, they're going to go for the apple, these sweet big apples.
And it's like a big thing of it too. It's like I'd rather eat one apple than have to go find like, you know, 100 berries that would make up that same thing, right?
Exactly. And there are like hundreds of apples on one tree too, right? So basically the apple, it's all like, again, look into this, read Botany of Desire, like do some research yourselves if you want to get...
Don't
like,
tell me to do work.
major detail. No, it's just, it's fascinating. I'm such a geek about it, but I'm just trying to condense this a little bit. But
no, it is fascinating.
So yeah, but that's the consensus in terms of like why this apple was so big in the first place. And right.
Cool.
So then we're going to just shift into domestication, because I think that's the critical thing here for humans and apples, our relationship with the apple. So they think the apple was domesticated between 4,000 to 10,000 years ago in the Tian Shan Mountains, which are right there in the Kazakhstan region, I think. They have to be. Anyway, Kazakhstan, that's the place. So just a little side note here. I'm not going to talk about apple grafting that much.
Okay.
Like, even though it's critical. I mean, I'm not going to talk about what it is that much because I'm not clear on like the actual science behind it.
Right.
All I know is like
they graft certain things on.
Yeah, that they take a bud from a desirable fruit tree and they insert the bud into the young sapling or something. I didn't know that's what it was, but whatever. But it apparently started in China, right?
Oh,
so
cool.
Remember, China borders Kazakhstan there. The apple traveled like eastward and westward simultaneously. It was like this, well, maybe not exactly simultaneously, but it traveled both ways. It wasn't just
like it's not just going one direction. Yeah.
And it's interesting because the apple evolved, like different varieties came out because of like these. It wasn't the same apple. So let me just explain. So there were these wild apples, right? And people started cultivating them and planting them. And then natural pollination happens, of course, right? Bees are flying around. They're all happy. Yeah. But then they say the crab apple basically crashed the apple party. And you had this like cross kind of, like pollination, which resulted in current populations of apples being more related to crab apples than the original Malus S apple.
Whoa.
So,
no way.
Yeah, the crab apple really just came in there and was like, you guys are going to eat me now. Like, it's like...
But in a really crabby way. Hey, guys.
No, but genetically, it's like, okay, it's hard not to jump ahead, but it's just fascinating how genetically, like, the apple is just so complicated and just, I love it. But anyway, so cool. I'm just fangirling about apples. So yeah, they did genome sequences to confirm that the wild ancestor of our cultivated apples is the Malus S apple that we find in Kazakhstan. So it's actually genetically sequenced, right? And these genetic sequences also show the appearance of crabapple genes following domestication. So it was because we were, planting trees, domesticating, cultivating. But then the crabapple's like, have fun, guys.
Suckers.
So the apple itself journeyed, like the seeds and everything, via the Silk Road trade, right? So yeah, so it went into China and then went the other way, westward, and it was this whole, the beginning of, that. I thought I had more information about our actual domestication thing, but not really. It's just kind of, it is what it is, right? People like apples, they're spreading them around.
They're growing them, they're picking them, they're eating them.
Yeah, but so the brunt of my research actually focuses on how the apple came to North America.
Oh, right? Okay.
Because I read this interesting article where they say there's only like maybe a few types of apple in our grocery stores. And why is that?
Yeah.
Right? And now there's like, people are trying to like find out like heirloom or what are they called? Like ancient kind of apple varieties. They're trying to bring them back. Whoa. And yeah. And I was like, oh, I didn't even think of that. Like, we just go to the store, we get whatever. And it's assume there's variety.
Because my sister said last summer, she got this, she said Costco had this like new kind of apple that she'd never heard of before. And I cannot remember what the name of it was. But she said it was the best apple she's ever had. She'd never heard of it. She's like, what is happening? How have we never had this apple before? And she like went back, like her whole family, they were like addicted to this apple. They just were ravenous over it. They're like, it's so good.
Yeah.
And she's like, you can't get it in any other store. And then of course it's Costco, so it was a limited time that they had it there.
Yeah.
And like, she was obsessing about this apple. It was crazy.
That is so funny. But it makes sense.
I want to call it Pink Lady, but I feel like that's not the right name for it.
That is
I think it is an apple, but I don't think it was the right one for her.
Because if that was the one, it's my least favorite apple.
Oh.
I tried it and I wanted to die. My applesauce didn't even taste good. I'm like, no. All right. So, sorry, is that clear that basically apples originated in Kazakhstan? And that, okay. And how they spread, right? That they were, okay, good.
It makes me want to go to Kazakhstan now and be like, what does it look like there with like apple season, right? And like, do they have like lots of apple festivals? They should.
They should.
They better.
Well, one of their major cities that used to be their, I guess, capital city is called
Appleville?
Almaty or so, I don't know. I can't quite remember, but basically Alma is the word for apple.
No way! So, cool.
And actually in quite a few languages, it's the word for
Alma?
apple. So, yeah.
Cool. That's kind of cool.
Okay, so the apple, it's like, okay, Ice Age, animals are spreading it around. It's getting big. It's all fabulous. Then it's like being mixed up with crab apples, right? It's on this crazy journey. People are like, yeah, right, apples.
An apple a day.
Not yet.
Oh.
So they go to, you get to the States in the 1600s, right?
Yeah.
The colonists, they're like colonial people.
Holy.
They're like, come on, let's plant some apple trees. So apples were introduced to North America by colonists in the 17th century.
Okay.
The first apple orchard was in North America, was planted in
Winnipeg.
Unfortunately, no.
Wah, wah.
In Boston by Reverend William Blackson in 1625.
Cool.
So the only apples that were native to North America before the European people brought stuff over were crab apples.
Okay.
So I might, don't be surprised if there's a crab apple episode because I'm kind of obsessed. But anyway. So when we talk about the apple journeying over to North America, the thing that everyone starts with is the tale of Johnny Appleseed.
Oh, yeah.
An actual legend, I think. I didn't even bother reading it because I'm not American, so I don't care about Johnny Appleseed, but not to be sure, whatever. There's only so much room in my brain, okay? Apparently, he's this guy who, like, wandered around all over America and, like, planted apple seeds everywhere.
Okay. Seems random.
Yeah.
He's a real guy.
He's this benevolent... Yeah. He was, like, this benevolent character. Everybody's like, oh, he's so great. The truth of the story is, like... close, but not quite. His real name is John Chapman. He was actually this really savvy, I guess, business guy. Again, with these savvy business people. He sounds like quite a character. I didn't delve into it, although I should. He wore, like, really shabby clothes, apparently, and kind of looked like a bum.
Okay.
But he was actually quite well off. So...
oh, my gosh.
He actually understood where settlers would start flocking and settling, basically, right? And he anticipated a lot of these kind of hubs, and he would start planting his apple seeds and basically start nurseries for saplings, like apple saplings, like, right? Like he's the kind of like the original garden center.
Oh my gosh, no way.
The reason he did this is because there was actually a law in the States where they were required, it was required by law for settlers to plant fruit trees because it was a symbol of a person like staying put, right?
Oh.
So they actually had to plant a fruit tree. I know, it's kind of this funny commitment of like, okay, take a sapling, go plant it somewhere, and you're going to live there forever. It's like, okay. You know I can walk away from a tree, right?
Yeah, you know trees, like, once they're established, they're good. Like, rain will take care of it. It's fine.
And I'm not tied to it.
You are literally shackled to it, though.
Okay, so the saplings. Okay, this is my favorite part of all of everything. Okay. So in the story, and even, well, in real life, he was planting seeds.
Okay.
And if anyone knows anything about apples, which I do not, they say this is a very strange way for people to spread apples, because not only was grafting the like preferred way of spreading apple things, right?
Yeah.
Grafting, like if you plant seeds, you're not guaranteed to get the same apple. So if you have an apple and you take the seed and you plant it, you're most likely going to get something bitter or sour and small and basically crab-apple-y. And the chances of getting a sweet fruit is much smaller, and it's very unlikely that you're going to get like the parent fruit again, right? So you don't want to be planting apple seeds to get the same apple tree. You want to graft, which is cloning. So you take the bud or the like even a cutting, and you will get a clone, right?
Whoa.
So what really happened there is Americans were getting a bunch of seeds, a bunch of random, genetically random apples. They were planting them everywhere. Most of them were bitter and gross. They're not really good eating apples.
Oh my gosh.
So, but this works in their favor because they make apple cider, hard apple cider.
Oh my gosh.
Most of the apples like American orchards at the time and everything were just cider apples.
I just got everybody drunk. Awesome.
Yes. But this is great because in colonial times, especially, water, it was such a gamble to drink the water because of illnesses, like diseases in the water and like just, So everyone drank hard cider, like everybody, like all the, well, I don't know if there was a president.
Everyone's just drunk at all times.
That's the problem. So people were getting all drunk, right? And alcoholism like increased by the 1830s. People were like drunk out of their minds, and people were like,
and just diabetic
we can't have
from all the sugar.
And so they started like chopping down apple trees because they started to see them as evil.
No way! Oh my gosh, they're evil again!
Right? Yeah, they're evil again. I know, I loved it. I was like, no way, evil apples. So they were all ticked off, and then by the time Prohibition came along, they basically obliterated most of the amazing varieties of apples. So back, sorry, let me just find that stat. So this guy said basically 1900s, apples were drunk, like you drank apples. And after 1900s, the apple was primarily sweet and meant to be eaten. So everything before the 1900s is just this hard cider situation. But it's sad because they had like thousands of varieties of apple because they had there were once 17,000 varieties in North America.
Holy cow.
Now most of them are extinct. And now only 15 varieties or so.
17,000?
Yeah. And now only about 15 varieties account for 90% of the United States apple production. So there's a reason this happened.
Whoa.
So when this turn against hard cider apples came about, right? It's not like the original sweet apples disappeared. Like some people still, they lucked out. They had good apple trees, right?
Yeah.
And they said that sorry, where's my thing? That basically it was a great way to make money. Where is my information? Sorry guys, I'm losing everything. I'll just have to wing it, but it was basically the road to, oh yeah, here. The ticket to great success and wealth was finding that one good apple in your orchard. So orchard owners were always on the lookout for the sweet, good apples.
Right.
And so most of our original apples that we have now, like Red Delicious, Macintosh, Baldwin, they all began in these hard cider kind of orchards.
Okay.
And when people found these good apples, they were like, yeah, let's cash in, right?
Yeah.
And the reason they could cash in, again, is because apples were tasty, obviously sweet.
Yeah.
Apples are just getting sweeter and sweeter and sweeter. And they chose the sweetest ones. So just a little side note, people who are bringing back apples now are trying to get like the nice nuanced apple back with like the bitterness, the tartness, acidity. They don't want it just full-blown sweetness.
Sweet. Yeah.
Which is fair because just sweet apples, I don't like them either.
I don't like them either, yeah. I really like Granny Smith apples a lot.
Right?
Yeah.
Yeah. I like Fuji, which are sweet, but not too sweet.
I like those as well, yeah.
Although
I don't
I
like
must say,
Macintosh. I hate Macintosh.
Yeah, me neither. I have to say though, if you ever make applesauce, if you ever get like from a farmer's market, like a mixed, one of those like mixed things of apples when they just put whatever scraps left. Yeah. Oh my gosh, it makes the best applesauce in the world.
Oh, that would be good, nice and balanced.
Right? Mm-hmm. I was so excited. But anyway, sorry, off topic. I love apples, if that's not clear. Actually, I don't like eating apples, like just straight.
I have to cut my apples. I can't bite into an apple.
But even just like eating them, it has to be applesauce for me. Or apple cake, apple pie.
I actually quite like apples with like a little bit of cheese as a snack, as my like little healthy snack.
I do that with pears. I like pears more.
I really like pears too.
I know, right? So anyway, I don't actually know when this was, but 20th century basically, the apple industry, they settled on a handful of varieties to promote worldwide, and the rest were forgotten basically. So we have all these like extinct poor hard cider apples. Even other good apples were like, forget it, let's just focus on these few.
Okay.
And that's where the industry started pushing that apple a day saying, which technically started in Wales, I believe.
Damn.
Believe it or not. Of like, an apple a day keeps the doctor away.
Oh my gosh.
I forgot what the original saying was, but basically that's what Americans picked up on, and it started being advertised as this wholesome, healthy food.
Yeah, so that's crazy.
They kind of got rid of the whole narrative of like apples are evil for drunkards, right?
Oh my gosh, just side note, I remember when I, way back in the day when I was working and I hated my life, and I remember you like put a note on my lunch, like my lunch that I was taking to work that day or something, and it was a Stephen Colbert quote where he said, "An apple a day will keep anyone away if you throw it hard enough." And I had it on this sticky note on my computer monitor at work because it made me laugh so hard every time I saw it. I'm like, yes, thank you, Stephen Colbert.
Oh, that's genius. I love that. But just to kind of wrap up a little bit, by the 1960s, there were only a few apples like Red Delicious, Golden Delicious, Macintosh, and stuff on the market. But this is my other favorite point. These are all cloned apples, right?
Yeah.
So, and they're made in like, I forgot what it's called, monoculture, something, I can't remember. But basically you have this entire apple that's not evolving.
Right.
This like
it's just staying
there.
Crazy.
But guess what is evolving? Diseases and insects and crab apples. Well, and crab apples and viruses and bacteria and everything. So they're always trying to get in there and be like, die apple. And the apple, like these ones, they are totally at risk of being wiped out very easily.
Oh
because
my
they're
gosh.
not.
Because they're a little boy in a bubble, basically. Like,
yeah. And so this is the sad part about apples, which makes me feeling guilty for eating them. But they are one of the biggest consumers of pesticides. So because everyone's obsessed with these few apples, right? It's just, they're like, but on the positive side, they are going back to Kazakhstan. They're getting these original apples, which are incredibly hardy, right? Because they've been allowed to like get strong and like
for
just
like
live their lives.
Thousands of years.
Yeah.
Basically.
They're starting to like do the whole like genetic kind of thing where they're trying to make like, say, like Macintosh or whatever, like more sturdy and resistant to diseases and that kind of thing. So science, again, comes to the rescue and is like,
wow.
Let's save these apples. And people, orchard owners, they're getting back into hard ciders. I know cider's becoming blowing up.
Huge, yeah.
Yeah, I know it's always been pretty popular, but I just noticed on the shelves there's all these varieties. I'm really into cider, actually. And I don't know, I just want to encourage people, go to the farmers markets, try to get local apples as much as you can, so maybe they're not as pesticide ridden, and just recognize that the crab apple, a lot of people hate crab apple trees, and it's no, but they're critical to us having apples in the first place, basically, right?
Yeah.
And I'm just, clearly I'm geeking out over here because I love apples. Sorry, that was such a disaster. But
no, that was so cool. I wonder if the Dollop has done an episode about Johnny Appleseed.
Well, they might have.
I don't think I've listened to one, but I haven't listened to a lot in the last year, I would say, a lot of their episodes. But
yeah, me neither. Were they the ones who made the glass eye joke in the comedy show, or was that Eddie?
No, that was Eddie. I think that was Eddie.
Oh man, full circle Eddie. Sorry. I'm not just randomly that came out of nowhere. Sorry. So wondering if it was Dollop.
That was awesome. I love that. I love the evil connection.
I'm sad I wasn't more
no, it's
organized because there were a lot of surprising facts and I wanted to make a whole big deal out of it, but I'm it's okay.
That's great. Ooh, also I wonder why apples have, because their seeds have arsenic in them, don't they?
Yeah.
Yeah, so you can't eat too many. It would have to take a lot for you to eat it.
Birds and stuff, they don't tolerate the apple seed as much.
Right, but I feel that's also a way to make sure that the seed kind of survives and is expelled.
Right.
Right? It's your body's gonna make sure it goes through, that it doesn't just sit there and fester.
Oh yeah.
Or
Good
something.
point.
I don't know. Or that certain animals won't eat it because the small animals won't eat it.
Or insects. It could be Yeah.
It's interesting.
I know. And I wonder how big the original seeds were, right?
Such an urban myth, I think, when we were kids, where it's don't eat the seeds.
Yeah.
A, because it'll make a tree grow in your tummy, and B, because it's poisonous. I remember my dad sometimes would eat the whole core, he was one of those weird people.
I know.
And you're what is wrong with you? Who raised you?
I know you can eat the core, but it's so
you can, but why would you want
hard.
to?
I don't know.
That can't be good for your intestines.
No.
Can't be.
But
and it's the whole point is to throw it out so a tree grows. Be a Johnny Appleseed
and get yourself a nice hard apple cider tree
just
out of this.
Apple you'll never want to eat.
I know. I think I was just blown away that I'd never even thought for a second that you will not get the same apple from a seed.
That's crazy.
Right? Because you just
Why
assume,
not?
The seed, that's going to give me the same thing, right? I
That's
grow
what I would
chestnuts
think.
from the chestnut, right? I'm thinking
avocado from an avocado seed.
Yeah. And I'm are you kidding me? I could get just some random apple.
And I can't believe there are so many different kinds of apples. That is unreal to me.
They are insane. There's all different colors. So you have my mom actually was telling me in Poland when they were little, they had this apple that she just loves so much that they'd actually throw sticks and rocks in the trees to get them down. In the winter, though, they actually were winter apples.
No way. What?
And she said they were this dark, almost black, purple color on the outside, and then Snow White on the inside.
Whoa.
Yeah, so it was this dramatic, beautiful winter apple. And she said it was so crispy and just delicious. And my dad said, his grandma had so many varieties of apple in
Oh my gosh.
Poland. Actually, Poland is the third, I think, largest producer of apples.
Really?
In the world, yeah.
Wow. Well, they're kind of in that area. They're pretty close to that area, right? The whole eastern.
Exactly.
Yeah.
The European thing. They're all crazy about
I really want to do
apples
a pilgrimage to Kazakhstan now.
Me too.
Just go even just see all the apples.
Yeah.
That's so cool.
I know, the original apple.
Yeah, the OG apple tour. Let's do it. If we ever take this podcast on tour and do live shows, we'll do one from an apple
orchard. We go to
Kazakhstan,
which has horrible human rights issues.
Yeah, we get killed immediately. You girls there.
How dare you speak at all? I don't know.
Yeah.
They do have freedom of speech issues there, so it's not I'm...
Well, there you go. See? The podcast might not be the best thing to take there.
People with their authoritarian governments. Kazakhstan, Government guy, whoever you are.
Government guy.
You made apples. You invented apples.
Be sweet like the apple, not sour like the crab apple.
Be proud and sweet. Yeah. Aw, crab
Yeah, we just have to speak in apple analogies to them to like get all their human rights stuff to turn around. That's what we've been missing. We need to go talk to the UN and tell them.
Apple analogies.
Mush everybody together like a fine applesauce. What?
Oh my gosh.
That was amazing. Thanks for joining us this week, guys. You can follow us on Instagram. Carla's still laughing. We are at podcast.or.something on Instagram. Give us a follow. Send us a message if you want. It would be fun to hear from you, whoever you are in Fiji. Let us know how you found us. Yeah. I'm sorry for offending you. And we will talk to you next week. Okay, bye.
Bye.